You're watching Maine Biz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
When was the last time you remember seeing a positive headline about the state of ground fishing on the coast of Maine? Those positive stories are few and far between these days. The business of fishing has always been a tough way to make a living in Maine. Now, with declining stocks, reduced days at sea, increased regulation, rising fuel costs, not to mention the same recession that's impacting every business in the state, fishermen in Maine's coastal and island communities are finding it even tougher to keep this traditional industry alive. But the men and women of the Mid-Coast Fishermen's Co-op have developed a new brand and are employing a community-supported fishery concept that they think will help turn the tide. Here to talk about this concept are Glen Libby of the Mid-Coast Fishermen's Co-op and Snyder from the Island Institute. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Lots to talk about. This is a great new kind of partnership and a program that you guys are working on. I'm going to be really interested to hear more about it. The whole program today is going to be about the fisheries industry. Let's start off by talking about the co-op itself. Tell me what the Mid-Coast Fishermen's Co-op is.
It's a group of fishermen. They're based in Port Clyde who banded together to try to find ways to stay in business. We started out leasing a dock. We didn't initially start out trying to market or brand anything.
When did you start?
In 2007 we started the co-op, in January 2007. And we just banded together to lease a dock, and then over time it developed into this whole marketing strategy, and we've recently added the capacity to do our own processing and delivery. So the concept has grown.
Where did the idea come from? I mean, how did you all find each other? How did it start?
It actually started back at the start of Amendment 16 to the Groundfish Plan, and we were all part of a group that was working on area management. That's how we got introduced to each other. The idea for the CSF came from a meeting that we had at the Gulf of Maine Research Institute. They had a series of meetings they called Fish Tank, and this one was focused on local marketing. And they had a lady from North Carolina, Susan Andrietta, who was working with Duke University and the local fishermen down there, and she was talking about a concept that was called a CSF, based on the agricultural model. And they also brought a farmer into the meeting that day, a local farmer from Maine, talking about the CSA, and on the way home the light bulb came on, and we said, I think we can do this.
Wait a minute, that's us, yeah. So, okay, I understand CSA is the community-supported agriculture. That's pretty well known and pretty well established, relatively new, but still established across the country. So how does it work for community-supported fisheries, CSF? Is it the same principle?
It's pretty much the same. People buy a share at the start of the season, full share, a half share, and we make deliveries for a set amount of time. We've changed it over the years. We started in 2007 with the shares of shrimp, whole shrimp, and this year we were able to add filleted fish to the mix. So I think that really helped to continue the forward momentum of the thing.
So there are people own shares, they're subscribers, so to speak. Is it just individuals, or are you dealing with restaurants? How does that work?
The restaurant market is separate. That's grown out of it. I mean, we'll have for instance, Mount Desert Island. We have quite a lot of restaurant market down there where we take orders from the restaurants every week. And the CSF helped anchor that. You put more product on the truck, basically. So you've got that delivery that's paid in advance. So you've got the money up front to help get you started, and then you can do the restaurant deliveries the same day.
How's it going?
It's going well.
How many shareholders do you have?
We started out in 2007 with 35, I think, shrimp shares, and this year with fish we ended up with about 350.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's big. I sounded surprised, didn't I? It's bigger than I thought. So what's your geographic region in for the CSF?
We went from Bath to Orono to Mount Desert, if you make an arc around that area. We had 11 drop-off points.
I know these are being done. You mentioned they're being done in other areas. Are they succeeding? How long have they been in place, and how do they measure success?
I've had a lot of calls from people from virtually all over the world. They had some pretty good success down in Gloucester with the Cape Ann CSF. I've heard about some other individual ones. It's a lot of work for just one person. You really need that co-op structure behind you. The biggest success story outside of Port Clyde that I've heard of has been the Cape Ann CSF.
Okay. One more thing, I got to ask this. All right, fishermen are notoriously known to be a very independent lot. How are they playing well together? How's that working out?
It's a pretty unique group in Port Clyde, but there's still some of that. Results generate cooperation.
It's like any business.
Yeah.
If it's working, it works.
So
right?
if it doesn't work, I don't think we would have held it together this long, but it is working.
Good. Okay, good. All right, Rob, you're with the Island Institute. What's your involvement? What's the Island Institute's role with this, with the co-op and with the CSF in general?
Sure. So as you probably know, the Island Institute's mission is really about sustaining island and remote coastal communities, and one of the ways we do that is partnering with leaders along the coast. And I see our job as really to identify groups of people or individuals who have a vision for the future that we can invest in as an organization. And so in this particular case, we saw a group of fishermen who thought of a new business model for the groundfish fishery. From where we're sitting, the Gulf of Maine is an incredibly depleted set of groundfish resources. Mm-hmm. We have a set of islands that are heavily dependent on the lobster fishery and a coastal economy that's heavily dependent on the lobster fishery. And so, I think it's in everybody's interest to have a more diversified fisheries economy along the coast.
Okay, investing, what do you mean by that?
Well, we saw it on a couple of different levels. Certainly one is a huge investment of time and energy, putting staff time into everything from developing the brand to building websites to providing staff support to do the day-to-day logistics in support of the fishermen down there. We even, in partnership with the state and kind of beyond, in addition to the brand, was securing working waterfront access. Mm-hmm. And in that case, we brought over $180,000 in capital into preserving the wharf down in Port Clyde so that it could support the groundfish fleet in perpetuity.
Clearly marketing is a big part of this thing. You've got this product, but if people don't know it's out there, they can't get it. And the marketing seems to be, you mentioned a lot in your materials about preserving the heritage of the community, returning the traditions of the past. How important are those things in terms of selling your product?
They're extremely important. Once you get the message out there to people that Maine is in jeopardy of losing their groundfish fishery completely, they understand, and they want to support it because they realize how important that is. I had an interesting story.
Okay.
When we started going down to Mount Desert with our CSF, there was a lady there that came from New Jersey. They just moved there the year before. They were excited to move to Maine because now they thought they could go down to the docks and get fresh fish right off the boat.
Right.
When they got there, they found there was no fishermen. So they were thrilled when we started bringing the fish down there.
Okay.
I think we're finding that what's compelling people these days, as is part of the national trend, is really when you can know where your food's from, know who caught it, and know that it tastes good. And I think that the CSF model and these kind of early outreach into restaurants and through farmers markets are really building a new constituency for fresh fish that hasn't existed for years.
Good. Okay. We're going to need to leave it there for this segment, but I'm going to keep you around for our afterthought segments where we're going to talk more about the business model, and also I want to talk about what's next for the co-op and some programs that the Island Institute has as well. So stick around. To hear more of our discussion, go to mainbiz.biz and click on the Main Biz Sunday logo. There you can watch our extended afterthought segment where we'll go into even more detail with these guests. And be sure to check out Port Clyde Fresh Catch by going to portclydefreshcatch.com. Stay with us. We'll be right back to talk about the new permit banking program that may just keep more fishermen at sea this year.
Main Biz Sunday is brought to you by Bangor Savings Bank, where you can enjoy free ATMs worldwide.